Welcome to AI, Government and the Future, a podcast by Corner Alliance. We explore the intersection of artificial intelligence, government and the future. We work with government to create results. We ignite your agency's mission by helping you to design and implement high-impact and innovative federal programs in AI, broadband, cybersecurity, public safety, and more. Being a government ally is at the core of all we do.
Welcome back to AI, Government in the Future. I'm your host, Marc Leh, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Sree Whitaker Taylor to the show. Sree is a distinguished leader in government analytics and innovation, currently serving as vice president at Elder Research. With over 15 years of experience advising government, private, and nonprofit sectors, she has a remarkable ability to translate complex technical analyses into meaningful solutions for non-technical audiences. Sree is also the founder of Delta Decisions of DC, a successful consulting firm that provided groundbreaking analytics services to federal clients for over 12 years. Today, we'll dive into the critical topic of workforce development in the AI and machine learning industry. As AI reshapes the economy and governance across the country, we'll explore how organizations can prepare a skilled, equitable, and innovative workforce to meet the demands of this transformative economy. Sree will also share her perspectives on government oversight, collaboration strategies, and fostering AI literacy across sectors to ensure that innovation aligns with public trust and societal impact. Welcome to the show, Sree. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Marc.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, typically we like to open the conversation by learning a little bit more about our guests, and would love to just give you the floor to describe, what's your story and how did you get to this part of your journey as one of the, nation's leading data science and artificial intelligence firms?
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you for that question. So I am a lifelong math geek. I've always had an affinity for math. Even, elementary school, high school, that was kind of the subject matter that was easiest for me. I struggled and probably still struggle to some extent with some of the more liberal art topics, English and whatnot. But when I, can get my hands on a math puzzle or math problem like this, that's really fascinating to me. And grew up doing a lot of puzzles and just figuring things out. And I was fortunate enough that I received a scholarship and had all of my schooling paid for to major in mathematics. It was during a time, and even now, when the nation was investing in a lot of U.S. citizens to pursue degrees in math, computer science, physics, and chemistry, biology, and whatnot. And so math was my field of choice, and I just ran with it, so to speak. And I'm a first generation college graduate. And so I didn't have a, well mapped out plan or anything, but it just turned out that I kind of followed my passion and opportunities presented themselves, and it just kind of worked out. And that's kind of the story in a nutshell.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you sharing that perspective. And, whenever you're able to operate in an area of passion and interest, especially given that it's, critical to, national security, economic competitiveness, that's all the better. So, Sree, you've had an impressive career spanning government analytics, consulting, education. Do you mind sharing, with the audience a little bit more about the current set of projects that you're working on or what your current priorities are at Elder Research or earlier in your career?
So yeah, absolutely. At Elder Research, I lead a team of around 35 brilliant people who focus on solving problems for the federal government, the civilian agencies, using data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Our niche, if you will, or one of our priorities is identifying the agencies that can use our talents to help combat fraud, waste, abuse, and mismanagement of funds. And we've Been doing that for many, many years. The company turns 30 this year, so big celebration time. Been doing this for a long time. Our founder, John Elder, started 30 years ago in his basement, and here we are now, still moving along and growing, especially in, recent years over the past decade when there's just been a much greater focus on data science and machine learning, and the focus being placed on data and how to use data to make more informed, more strategic decisions. So those are kind of the highlights and areas where we tend to focus mostly, will be in that fraud, waste, and abuse area, and applying that skill set to help solve problems for the government.
That's great. Well, and I think a consistent theme on this show is, the full range of AI capabilities and classical data science techniques have tremendous, value to operational efficiency, precision with future public sector resource allocation, finding new, more effective ways of delivering services and products to American citizens. And so I think that we approach this discipline or this technical scientific domain in a very similar way when it comes to applying these techniques to optimizing the impact and effectiveness of government. So I appreciate the background. Now, today we were going to focus a little bit, primarily on workforce development, given a lot of transformations that are being driven across the consulting workforce, the federal workforce, and employees across the country at large. And I think before we get into specific AI driven impacts on workforce development, would love to learn from you, Sree, on any sort of advice that you've applied to help the people that you've mentored or advocated for through your experience, at your current position or elsewhere when working with federal agencies.
That's a nice broad question there, but I'll say that one of the things that I tend to try to that I streamline on, and I continue to kind of go back to, is helping those that I lead um, have a better sense of who they are and being authentic. I do, of course, I work with a lot of folks that have a technical background, as do I. And so I feel like I have a unique opportunity to empathize with some of the things that they struggle with. And it could be just being able to communicate a technical idea to a non technical audience, um, and being able to talk through that and receive feedback on how to iterate on that and refine it to get it to its best possible state. Imposter syndrome is something else that comes up a lot, believe it or not, and at various levels too. It's not just, the entry level data scientists that, may bring that up. It comes up at all of the levels, and specifically at the level of having a PhD, because I even struggle with it at times. And you don't realize how many people actually have something along those lines to get past until we begin to have a conversation about it. And then I'm thinking, oh, you have a PhD, you're a subject matter expert, yet you still struggle with this. And the answer is yes. And so just having those conversations and helping my team to raise their level of self-awareness so that so that we can all better serve our clients and showing up in our full authentic self.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, and I think that it does apply to the adoption or embracing the use of some of these large language models and other analytical tools to edify your capabilities as a consultant or as a federal program. And kind of what I keyed in on, Sree, is you were talking about the importance of translating highly complex technical concepts or approaches in plain language and keeping almost the business case for why these tools are so important and how they can benefit organizations, business outcomes, professional development, reduces barriers or reduces the intimidation factor of embracing some new techniques or ways of doing things. So I appreciate that, context before we get into a more direct conversation around workforce development. Given that you do have experience around analytics, government consulting, education, and obviously management and staff development, how do you see, workforce preparation evolving today to meet kind of the technical requirements associated with an increasingly AI-driven economy? Are there specific trends or impacts that you see AI tools and their proliferation in public sector applications or, consulting functions? Do you see those tools impacting the teams that you work with in any specific ways?
Excellent question. I'm not sure if I see the tools impacting my team in any specific ways. But one thing that our team, what we try to make sure we do is that we're tool agnostic. So we don't have a specific type of tool that we kind of bring to the table and really try to influence the client to use. Um, we come as consultants and we listen, and then what we try to do is to identify the best tool to solve the problem based on what we heard. Um, Now we do have to overlay that with what, because we're talking about the federal government, what has been, approved for usage in their environment, but government is making a lot of has made a lot of advances in that regard, and so their tool set is, just as wide as those in industry or the commercial realm. I do think that critical thinking skills and paying attention to detail is, for me, those are some of the fundamental things that I look for as I am growing my team. A lot of data scientists, like back in the day, at the onset, you would find a lot of data scientists who had backgrounds in math and statistics and computer science. Today, data scientists are coming from a wide range of backgrounds, and that's wonderful because that diversity adds a level of richness to problem solving that wasn't there before. Um, but at the foundation, when I'm building my team, um, the critical thinking skills is kind of a foundational pillar that I make sure everyone on my team has, and paying attention to the details, and then those communication skills.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, even when because if you think through kind of classical data science methods or solving a math problem in Python or R or another, relational database system or coding a solution, AI is the logical extension of that. And so you're still organizing your problem solving approach in a consistent way. You're defining a well-scoped problem to solve, like evaluating what are sources of information that could shed light on this problem? How do we want to process and transform it in a way that's useful? And then you've got to communicate the results as well. So I think having those foundational skills, as you said, is makes it more accessible or approachable for individuals regardless of background to begin experimenting or leveraging some of these tools, which I would agree is a great kind of trend or new capability across the industry. Now, do you see any sort of like skills increasing in demand in order to keep pace with kind of the breadth and complexity of some of the tools that you've seen? Or I guess, Sree, have you seen maybe some of the low or no code approaches to data science, offered by tools like ChatGPT or different libraries, kind of reducing kind of the learning curve associated with being able to make data driven decisions in your field?
Yeah, for sure. And that was actually one of the things that I was going to kind of mention about and how to differentiate the flavors of a data scientist, if you will. It's kind of like, do you code, or do you lean more towards the no code um, platform or approach? It's important to know that, so that you're staffing your project with the right skill set. Um, Those who use R, we kind of have like the R camp, and then you have the Python camp of coders. And then, we're quickly growing a camp of low to no code data scientists as well. But I think that understanding and being able to formulate the problem, being able to articulate it with the client. So listening and being able to filter out what's important. And this kind of goes back to the communication piece of it. I think that is something that we're going to see it have like a lot of longevity. Is going to be around for a while, a skill set that no matter what background you come from, is going to be needed to ensure that we provide the best solutions for our clients.
Absolutely. And Shree, have you seen any specific coaching or upskilling techniques proven to be particularly successful in terms of teaching some of those problem solving skills or communication skills to make sure that teams are identifying the proper tool for the job or the proper technique? I guess any best practices from a skills building perspective that you can offer?
Now that's really an interesting question. I feel like that if I was able to articulate that in like 15 seconds, that would be a silver bullet. But I'm going to parse it and do the best that I can here because that is a big chunk of my job is to help my team develop and close any gaps that they may have for the benefit of the client. And so when it comes to, your general consulting frameworks, there are a lot that are out there that, you can Google and find those. The interpersonal skills, those can be a little bit more difficult. There are a lot of frameworks out there. I don't know any off the top of my head, but for my team, I like to give assessments. And the one that when I have new people joining my team, there are two books that I have them read and take the assessment and provide me the feedback on. One is Strength Finders, being able to identify your top 5 strengths according to this assessment. And then I take it and I put it in a nice little chart and I see who aligns with whom and whatnot. So I'm doing my own little analysis off that information. And then the other one is workplace appreciation. That's based off the 5 love languages, which is a well-known book. They have one for the workplace, the 5, they're not called love languages, but the 5 languages of the workplace. And that gives me insight on how people like to be shown appreciation because it's not a one size fits all. When I show this level of nuance and detail and care for my team, they then see what it looks like in how I expect them to take care of their clients. And so their client may not appreciate 56-page slide deck. Some do, but my point is it's very important to understand your client and how they like to engage, how they like to receive information, how they like to communicate, and also being true and authentic to yourself. And so I advocate that my team spend time raising their level of self-awareness. And when you do that, of course, that's good for you so that you know yourself, but you also begin to pay attention to the impact that you have on others when you show up as your authentic self. And just having that awareness can help move things along, can help support the, positive engagement as we're all trying to, accomplish a mission here. Now, at Elder Research, we have for our, we're a technical company, so we have statistics.com is our own platform where we use that platform to do a lot of upskilling. So if we bring someone in and there may be a gap in, say, graph theory, we just go to statistics.com and we can enroll them in a class. And it is open to, all for, and their, tuition associated with it. But for the employees at Elder Research, this is a benefit that we offer. So we have a culture of continuous learning where we're able to make sure that any technical gaps that kind of show up, that we can address those in-house.
Yeah, and I think, being able to leverage, vetted training platforms at scale to address specific, skills gaps, applies to a consulting firm like Elder Research, like Corner Alliance, and certainly, when we're talking about, federal programs positioning their offerings for the benefit of, the American public, there are opportunities for program or, agencies or programs to educate and support workforce development so that employees or new graduates are more adequately prepared for entering an AI driven workplace. So I think, offering, training courses or kind of conducting an audit or a skills mapping and understanding where common gaps are would be a worthwhile endeavor for federal programs or, the organizations working with those programs to conduct. And I think, Sree, from your perspective, I'd love taking a little bit more of a macro view. If you have any thoughts on how, governments, at the federal level, state, local, and industry can kind of collaborate more effectively to ensure some of these training programs or course offerings are more maybe forward looking and aligned with kind of the technical AI professional environment that we find ourselves in. I guess any recommendations or ideas that you have on that front?
So along those lines, I think what I've learned over the years is that there really isn't a need to reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of good resources that are out there already. And I learn a lot by attending conferences and just talking to various people in my network. Um, I think that a lot of even the major universities will have some complementary, upskilling courses that they can offer. Or if you are an alum of a particular university, they may have continuing education credit that you can take. Um, but I do think that kind of knowing was out on the horizon was already there because there's a lot. Um, I know, like personally, whenever I want to learn about something or either brush up on something, and like gardening or something, I go to YouTube University, and I'm overwhelmed with all the information because there's this, the crowdsourcing and sharing of information that's already there. And you can add to that information without having to recreate it, or you can add to it and provide a different POV, which is also a critical aspect of learning. I even think that, if I'm not mistaken, within DoD, Defense Acquisition University has some offerings that the general public may be able to take. That's something that someone should fact check me on. But the government does have opportunities. You just have to kind of like look for them, or talk to different people, and the things will kind of like surface and reveal themselves. But a lot of good information. Some of it is a lot of it is free. Some of it does have a nominal cost, but a lot of good information is right at our fingertips.
Absolutely. Well, and I do want to maybe circle back to maybe how, some of the, federal programs might be able to leverage AI and an AI literate workforce to optimize operations. I know, Sree, you had mentioned that, you spend a lot of time working with organizations to detect, mitigate, or address fraud, waste, and abuse in the public sector. In order to do that through the use of AI tools or other analytical techniques, you obviously need a workforce capable of operating those tools and understanding how they're using and how to iterate them. I guess, can you maybe share some examples of how you've seen government programs use, analytics or AI driven techniques to identify operational efficiencies and any sort of key skills that you've noticed being required of the employees to operate these tools to identify those efficiencies?
I would say that for some of our clients now that we're working with, LLMs are a big thing, of course, the large language models, um, and not to leave out the small language models as well. Those have their place when you're doing some testing and evaluation as well, or if you just don't have the compute that you wish you did. Text mining, text analytics. The folks on my team are very skilled at taking just a lot of information and, as an example, without kind of giving away the any of the details for our government clients, um, being able to take large PDF documents and parse them into compartments so that certain sections can be evaluated much more quickly and more efficiently. It's been a big help, I think, for some of our clients in being able to kind of go right to the source of what they need to do. It kind of removes some of the unnecessary but necessary work that has to be done. And so it kind of creates a much more laser focused category or collection of tasks that need to be done. And it helps to expedite the workers' activities and keep it focused.
You touched on a theme that we've talked about with other guests where, regardless of, the tools that are being used for, improving government effectiveness, a human has to maintain their kind of role in commanding these tools, making decisions based on the analytical outputs that are being generated by different workflows and things of that nature. And that, we're able to kind of get to the strategic decision making element of, allocating, resource investment or, course correcting at-risk projects more effectively through the use of these tools. I guess, Sree, have you noticed any sort of approaches for making sure that the use of these tools are being done, ethically and justifiably, and that like the clients that you're working with are making decisions based on, trusted, vetted information that you're able to share?
Yeah, yeah. I think what that kind of points to is responsible AI or RAI, as we call it sometimes. And that's been a big push for us internally in making sure that when we talk about RAI, that we're talking about it from that there's a common language. And so we've established kind of our own playbook, if you will, so that when we go and we talk to clients about this, we can provide them kind of a foundational data dictionary, if you will, or just common language as to how we think about these things, and we engage and we accept their input. I think one of the things that my team would say that they probably wish they had more control over, that, but they don't when it comes to RAI is the data. A lot of times you get the data and it kind of is what it is. You wish it was better, but it was a big Herculean effort to even collect it, and the fact that we have it, and then there's all the things about privacy and ownership with the data and sharing of the data between even agencies. Things that you would think that would be, not that big of a deal. Oh, just pick up the phone and call someone. Hey, can I borrow, a cup of milk? Like, it doesn't really work that way. You kind of wish it did. But the largest limitations I would think would be in getting data that is as ideal as you would want it to be. And of course, when you get the data, you have to take it through a process, a cleansing process, to prepare it for the model. And sometimes that can take a long time and be a big effort. And then after you do that, that's when you start to realize, oh, I wish they had done this, if only. And but you have to kind of go with what you have there.
Well, and Shree, I wonder, given the data quality being a consistent barrier or gap that you and your teams run into and have to overcome. Do you see that that's maybe a result of there being a lack of a consistent, government-wide data governance framework or process, or lack of consistent data standards, guiding the way in which programs capture common points of information? Or could you elaborate on maybe the root cause or kind of specific issues that you've run into on that?
We could definitely do like the Monday morning quarterback thing and say, it could, would, should have been done this way. But the reality of it, I think, is that this is we're pioneering a lot here. This is kind of like the wild, wild west. And when information is being collected, we do have to give a little bit of grace and empathy and realize that, whatever constraints existed, whether it be funding, whether it be time, whether it be, workforce, bandwidth, um, that, the data is the best that it could be. And so even if the quality isn't the highest and what we would want kind of in this magical theoretical place, where we can just, develop models and have it act on the highest quality of data, that we're pioneering. We're at a forefront now where there just isn't a whole lot, not in the sense large scale models and big data. Kind of the idea that all data, would be collected in a way that would be useful for every single use or model is definitely aspirational. But I think we're getting better. I think that as the workforce kind of grows and matures, that what we're seeing is that we have more AI, data science, data literate people who are kind of matriculating and moving up the ranks in leadership, and they're giving forethought to this now, and they have that insight that before just kind of wasn't there.
Yeah, and I think what you said earlier around, having a foundational skill of, problem solving, scrutiny, being able to communicate things, and, being able to apply judgment or to validate, conclusions or recommendations or findings generated through the use of AI tools is going to be important for almost sanity checking the source data, and having a relationship where workforce is able to, review, scrutinize, and interpret, analytical outputs, and be able to look at the source data to identify potential errors or uncertainty. So I think that's a great point. And I guess in terms of like imagining the future of a AI literate workforce, I love that term that you shared. I think of, one that is technically skilled, informed by, using these tools ethically, and for, especially in a public sector context, for public good and efficiency and high quality outputs, and aligned with the public interest. Are there other Sree core values that come to mind when thinking through kind of that, what that ideal AI literate workforce looks like from your perspective?
Excellent question. I think kind of going back to the communication skills and being a good listener and communicating and using plain language when talking, because sometimes if you get a number of us together, we can kind of geek out, and it can be exclusive to others who have valuable information that may be on the business front, um, that we need. And what we want to kind of make sure we do is create an environment where there's the sharing of information in that environment. Um, so the communication, the authenticity, if we can leave egos at the door, or maybe like not even have egos, that would be awesome, because I think that we could really kind of propel and move forward together in supporting the mission, being authentic, and making sure that you're also being transparent what your needs are, whether or even your preferences and your goals. And that kind of goes back to the ego part, like not coming in with an agenda, a hidden agenda, and realizing that we are all here. In elder research, we like to say we're here to serve our clients and to serve our teams, our teammates. So that's really a core focus of ours.
Focus on the problem at hand and maintain kind of an open mind, minimum self-orientation around getting the job done or solving the problem. Just do it in an effective way and help people out while doing it. I love that. Well, I think, knowing that we're getting close to time, I did, Shree, want to just ask some, questions around your maybe any sort of key advice that you might offer, policymakers or technologists, emerging leaders who are entering the workforce or beginning to manage teams around, how to navigate, the use of AI tools or just operate really effectively in the new kind of workplace, that we see ourselves in here today. So any advice from you?
Oh yeah. I think that some of the advice that I would give is pretty basic. Is be a continuous learner. Um, and just always yearn for that, and be humble and look for the information and realize that no one person has the answer to everything. Leadership is definitely a journey. Um, and I remember I would tell people, or I tell people all the time, even though I have a PhD in mathematics, when I became more of a people leader, that's when life got really hard. Like I could develop the models, the numbers, the models, they don't talk back. If something doesn't go as you expected it to go, you kind of, dig into it and you find your error, you debug and you keep moving. Um, and the next day when you come back to run that model, if all the parameters are the same, you're going to get the same output. That does not translate to people. And that is probably, for me, that was one of the biggest, I guess, hurdles or challenges in moving from a technical space more into management and leadership is that people are not numbers, people are not models. Even if they were happy yesterday, they could show up the next morning and, we're in the same room, we're sitting in the same seats, but something is different. And just taking the time to dig into it a little bit to understand and to provide some grace and to be a team player.
No, that's great advice. Whether you're leading a AI driven team or more generally, certainly a lot of great management techniques there represented. I guess, Shree, as we kind of transition, for a few closing questions around the big picture, anything else that you'd like to share around, how you envision, today's, public sector consulting workforce evolving in response to the rise of, LLMs, more data driven, analytical business decision making, things of that nature, any kind of macro trends that you're looking for as we move forward?
I think just kind of looking for opportunities to apply models that are already well known working in one sector, just kind of looking for the opportunity for application in other sectors to solve maybe slightly different problems and, tweaking things here or there. I feel as though we have what we need here for the most part. That's not to say that innovation, should take a back seat, but sometimes innovation is just like turning the kaleidoscope a couple of clicks and getting a totally different picture.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. Um, And I think, last one, in terms of any specific principles or strategies you feel are really essential or important to ensure that, future AI driven workforce initiatives or AI initiatives in general are equitable, inclusive, and kind of, representative of different, business perspectives and professional backgrounds, things of that nature. Any thoughts there?
I think I kind of go back again to the whole leaving the ego at the door and being humble and being inquisitive and listening is that's when you learn the most is when you place yourself in a position of being an observer and being willing to engage and being curious um, and not coming again with the hidden agenda or a preconceived notion. So I think that that will serve the AI world very well, and realizing that even though a lot of us may have different skill sets or different familiarity or comfort level with AI and data science, recognizing that we're all very important to making this work and to go forward. So reaching out, locking arms, and recognizing that we can all add value in some form of fashion, and just taking the time to listen and to help develop that solution together.
Well, Sree, I certainly value your perspective and management approach, showcasing that on today's episode. I guess before we let you go, I guess where can listeners go to check out more of your work?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Shree Whitaker Taylor, and at elderresearch.com.
Well, Shree Taylor, Vice President at Elder Research, thanks for joining us today on the podcast. We certainly look forward to monitoring your future efforts, and thanks for all you do, working to apply these AI ML techniques to, the public sector and in improving public outcomes. I think it's really great work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Mark, for having me. Thank you for your time.
AI, Government and the Future is brought to you by Corner Alliance. To find out more about Corner Alliance and how we work with government to create results, visit our website at corneralliance.com. And then make sure to search for AI Government Future in Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Corner Alliance, thanks for listening.